when I got to Sydney, Australia, I was supposed to look up these National Geographic photographers, and they weren't there. So that was fine. So we went on and did our thing in
What year was this?
1964.
Okay.
And so we were determined to go to the Outback. So we went from Adelaide to Darwin, which is about 3,000 miles. And all of our Australian friends told us not to do it. It was too dangerous, but we did. We started hitchhiking and eventually made it to Adelaide. And then from Adelaide through the Outback to Darwin, you had to find somebody to take you, to pick you up when you're hitchhiking. And once they picked you up, they couldn't just drop you. They had to wait till there was another car to take you. So when we got to Darwin, we were so exhausted, we went to the bar immediately. And there were the National Geographic photographers there from Sydney, which I didn't even know they were going to be there. And this was like 6 months later. So they said, oh my God, well, you're just in time. We're going to do two things that you want to do. We're going to go on a water buffalo hunt, which we did, in an open Land Rover, which was the wildest thing I have ever done in my life. And then when that was over, no buffalo was killed, thank God, but we chased them. So then after the water buffalo chase, we went with them up to see the lake people, which were these Aborigines that had never seen white people before. Took us 2 days to get there, and it was up by New Guinea.
Wow.
And it was unbelievable. They played the didgeridoo for us. They were thrilled to see us. They'd never seen white people before.
Wow.
And that was really exceptional.
Okay, I have so many questions. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Meander and Muse. For me, this week's guest needs no introduction. At the age of 21, I set out from Columbus, Ohio in search of some fresh air. Ended up spending the summer in Boulder, Colorado, where my older half-sister lives. As much as I love the absolute stunning beauty of Boulder, there was something missing. I was missing the grit, the diversity, punk rock shows and basement bars. And a mutual friend said they knew someone that needed a house sitter for a month in Denver, and would I be interested? Felt like a win-win to me. I arrived one day and walked into an old school loft in an old hat factory to meet the owner, Gretchen Bunn. What I know now is that in that very moment, my entire life was about to change. Gretchen is one of those people who just goes to the beat of her own drum. I've heard her tell stories time and time again where she decided she was going to do something. People said, that's too risky. I wouldn't do that. And she followed her gut and did it anyways, which has led to an extraordinary life and career. And all these years later, I'm so grateful that I get to walk into her house, sit down, and I get to hear about when she and her friend decided to board a passenger ship and head out to see the world for 2 years. I'll let her tell you all the details. Welcome, Gretchen Bunn. Okay, so where did you originally meet the National Geographic photographers?
On the ship going to New Zealand.
And where was the ship coming from?
San Francisco.
Okay, so we're going to back way up. Okay, wait. So you took a ship in 1963.
Four.
From San Francisco to New Zealand.
Right. The ship was a P&O Orient called the Aurunze, and it wasn't a cruise. It was a passenger ship. that was taking immigrants from Ireland, Scotland, England to New Zealand and Australia. And it was a 17-day trip.
Okay. And so was that common back in the 60s to travel by these passenger ships?
Not for Americans.
So what do you do on the ship for 17 days?
Oh my God. I didn't want to get off the ship. I mean, we had so much fun. So much fun. I actually got engaged.
Oh my gosh.
The people on that ship were between 22 and 25 mostly. So it was just so much fun.
Amazing. I love that. You get to, on the ship to New Zealand, you meet these National Geographic photographers. And they're like, come to Australia.
And see us in Sydney. That's where they were based, in Sydney.
And so you got to Sydney 6 months later.
They were gone.
They were gone.
But we didn't know where.
Right. And then you went to Adelaide.
Well, we started hitchhiking and eventually made it to Adelaide. And then from Adelaide through the outback to Darwin is about 2,500, 3,000 miles.
And how long?
How long did it take to get there? You had to find somebody to take you. So, but we made it. We went to Alice Springs and spent some time there, and it took us probably 3 weeks to get through the outback, I think.
That is incredible. Okay. So I know I keep breaking up the stories.
Let me put it in context for you. Okay.
Please.
My roommate and I were in college together at the University of Colorado. And we wanted to do something after we graduated. We'd been to Europe, but we wanted to see the East and Australia and New Zealand. And when we got out of college, we got a cheap apartment and got 2 jobs each of us because our parents weren't going to give us any money. They didn't want us to do this. So I don't know how much Georgie saved, but I saved about $1,400. And I thought that was enough for a while. So we got on a train and went to San Francisco and got on this ship. Now, it was $1,400 after we paid for our passage. And we were 22 years old, the whole world ahead of us. We were so excited and happy. And we met all these wonderful people. And as I said, I got engaged to this person from New Zealand. And I actually did one of the first Oil of Olay commercials on that ship.
What do you mean first?
Well, the person I got engaged
like radio?
No, it was television.
Okay.
The person I got engaged to was this darling guy from New Zealand, Wellington. His name was Kevin O'Connor. And they were doing a promotion for the ship, for P&O Orient. And they said, well, we need a woman in here with you. And he said, well, how about her? He didn't know me. So I was in that commercial with him, and that's how we met. So then later I did the Oil of Olay commercial, which I never saw and never gave any thought to it. And years later, my friends in Australia called me in the middle of the night. They said, we just saw you on television. So they did run it in Australia, but I never saw it. So we got to New Zealand. And my fiance at that time wanted me to fly with him to Wellington. He would pay for it. I said, no, we're not going to start our trip off like this. We're independent women. We'll get there and we'll call you when we get there. So we ended up hitchhiking with 5 Maori truck drivers with 1,000 sheep. And it took us, it wasn't overnight. I don't know how long it took us, but when we finally got there, I called Kevin and he said, where are you? And I said, we're at the stockyards. He said, oh my God, what are you doing there? And I told him the story. He said, I'll be right there. So he came and got us and met the Maori drivers. They were just darling. And when I got to Wellington, Georgie and I got jobs at the Royal Oak Hotel. We were just going to stay a couple of days, but we decided we were going to stay longer. We were waitresses, and it was a pretty swank little hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they spoon and fork food, off of big silver trays. So we did that, and hotel provided us our room and food, so we could save everything that we made. And after 6 months, we'd saved almost $10,000.
Oh my goodness.
And so, yeah. And while I was there, this is very important to the story. Port authorities were having for the Commonwealth, a big convention. So all the Commonwealth were there. And I met this one guy named Goko Pui from Singapore. And we just clicked and we just had so much fun. He said, when you get to Singapore, you must call me. And I said, okay, if you need to leave a message, call Thomas Cook. I didn't give it any more thought. We finally had to leave. I mean, we were there 6 months and Georgie wanted to go on and this is our first stop. So we got on another ship. I said goodbye to Kevin, promised to come back. We got on a ship and sailed into Sydney Harbor, which was unbelievable, beautiful. So once we got to Sydney, we, went around to Melbourne and went to Canberra and Adelaide, and then that trip up north to Darwin where we met the guys. So when we left the lake people, we wanted to get back to Queensland. And this is interesting because in order to get back to Queensland from the Outback, you have to go through what is called the Birdsville Trek, which is 300 miles of dirt road.
Wow.
And it is right in the middle. And so we were lucky we got 2 cars to take us. And when we finally made it around to Sydney and got on a ship. But when I tell my Australian friends that we did the Birdville Trek, they don't believe me. I had to prove it to them. I had to tell them about it because nobody goes on the Birdville Trek. It is one of the most treacherous in the Outback. But we had to do it. We had to get to Sydney. So we got on another P&O Orient and sailed into Hong Kong. And I'm not proud of this, but while I was on that ship, I met David Woodruff.
Oh.
Broke my engagement to Kevin and got engaged to David.
You were a fast mover.
Well, I was. I mean, but in 10 days on a ship is like 10 years anyplace else.
Well, that's why I was asking, what's 17 days on a ship like?
Well,
clearly it's like the Love Boat.
The most I ever spent on a ship was going from Perth to Miami, which was 47 days.
What?
Yeah, but I cried when I got off the boat. I just didn't want to leave. But anyway, so when we got to Hong Kong, we got caught in a typhoon. Anyway, we had a wonderful time in Hong Kong and, a couple of weeks. And then David had to leave to go to Bangkok. And I was heartbroken. But
and Georgie's still with you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She's putting up with all this. No, we were great friends and great travelers. I finally sent a telegram to David, and I didn't have much money, and you had to send a telegram by words. So my telegram was, meet hotel lobby midnight. He got that telegram, and he knew how cheap we were, and he said, oh, it had to be you. So, we finally got to Bangkok, spent some time there, said goodbye. David finally went home to Australia, and we flew to Singapore, where I went to Thomas Cook, and Goko Pui had been calling and asking for us for weeks because we were like 6 months late.
Right. Yes, of
so
course.
I called him, and he sent a car for us, and he was very prominent. This is when Lee Kuan Yew was the premier of Singapore, which was like their George Washington, and Goko Pui was just so prominent, and he had a big party for us.
Oh.
And I had made a dress.
You were like royalty.
Well, he couldn't have been sweeter to us. We looked like urchins, I mean, we'd been traveling all over, dusty and everything. Anyway, so Goko Pui had this big party for us, and it was really lovely. And he gave us his car and his secretary and his chauffeur and all that stuff. So it was wonderful. And then we left Singapore, and we're going up the Malay Peninsula to Pagan and some of those places. And then when we took a plane into Burma, but they were having a civil war, so you couldn't, we were in Rangoon for like a couple of hours. And then we took a plane up to Kathmandu. But this was also amazing. My chair collapsed on the plane. And I said, I don't have a place to sit. It was a little tiny plane. It wasn't a jet. They put me up with the pilots. And I got to see going over the Himalayas in a big panoramic view from the cockpit.
Wow. That is insane.
So
you were flying high.
yeah, we were. And there's one other little anecdote about Kathmandu. I had a friend named Bill Robinson who was with the Peace Corps, so we stayed with him. The jet was going to fly into the airport in Kathmandu, the first jet to ever fly into an airport, and it was an American jet.
Mm.
And everybody was so excited. All the Nepalese were wagging American flags. And so we went out to the airport too. And when we were out there, we met these two Red Cross nurses, American. And it was in the middle of Diwali, which is their big holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't get a plane out to go to India. And they were just so upset and worried because they were being missed. One of the pilots from the jet, I don't know why I did this, but I ran up to him and I said, there are two American girls, Red Cross nurses. They can't get out of Kathmandu. Can you take them on your plane back to India? And he said, okay. Years later, like 1968, I'm at a bar near the airport with my boyfriend at that time, who was a pilot. And we're going to meet one of his friends. And so I'm not too interested. I mean, they're talking pilot stuff, But all of a sudden he said, and I flew the first jet into Kathmandu. And I went, what? I said, do you remember the two nurses you took with you? And he said, oh my God. It was the same pilot.
That is insane.
4 or 5 years later.
In Kathmandu? Were you in Kathmandu?
No, we were in Denver.
Oh.
I was at the airport, a bar near the Denver Stapleton.
That is
I know, isn't that funny? I have one other funny story that took place before I went into...
Where is this story? Are we on our way to India?
We're in India on our way to Rawalpindi. Okay, which is interesting too, because it was during the war. We're at a place called Worst Tea in Town. That was their Indian sense of humor. It's this big, it looked like a Russian meeting hall. I mean, it was concrete and ugly. And we're having tea, waiting for the bus to take us to Pakistan. And all of a sudden, this old Indian guy from the very back of the room gets up and walks over to our table, takes my hand, and I start crying.
Wow.
And I said, who are you? He said, I don't know what our connection is, but we were either son and daughter. I mean, father and daughter, husband and wife, or mother and son. But I believe in reincarnation, and I know you.
Oh that just gave me the chills.
But I'm Southern Baptist. I didn't believe in any of that stuff.
So were you like, who is this guy? Like, were you like, what is happening?
My whole body was just, and Georgie had to watch this. I was crying. And we finally had to get on our bus. And we wrote to each other for years after that. But on the bus going into Pakistan, incredible. I was crying and crying. And Georgie couldn't console me. And it was like I was leaving something. I've never gotten over it. I don't know how to explain it.
It's like a real soul connection. I mean, now that you're older, do you believe what he said?
I don't know. I don't believe in reincarnation. I don't even really believe in organized religion. I believe in evolution.
Right.
I believe in the stars and the universe and the Big Bang Theory and how we evolved from two cells. But I don't know if I believe in Jesus. I don't know if he's a son of God, but I believe whoever he was amazing. If he wasn't the son of God, it doesn't matter. He was the most amazing person. The time I was most afraid is when we entered Pakistan from India during the Pakistani-Indian War. And we entered Rawalpindi. And the day we got to Rawalpindi, they bombed the city. You didn't know where to hide. You didn't know what to do. I didn't know if they were going to invade. The Indians were going to invade Pakistani after they bombed it. But it was pretty calm. I mean, we survived it. We got out of there as quick as we could, though, and went on towards the Kabul, Afghanistan border. The interesting thing about going into Pakistan from India during the war, they don't want to destroy commerce. So they want people to still be able to go back and forth, but it's very difficult. We got on a bus. The bus took us within 5 miles of the border. Then the bears on the bus took our luggage, or we didn't have any, but whatever it was, to about 2.5 miles from the border. Then we had to carry it 2.5 miles to the border, where we're met by the Pakistani bearers who take us 2.5 miles to the Pakistani bus.
Oh my gosh.
That's how you do it.
Yeah. That's similar to a crossing I did from Bolivia into Brazil.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the train stopped in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And they're like, you got to walk down there.
Exactly.
And you're like, where? It's like dusty, but it's a jungle. So it was very bizarre.
I know.
Mm-hmm. Those border crossings are always strange.
Well, especially during a war.
Yeah. So how is that walking?
I mean, it was part of the adventure. I mean, you just do what you have to do.
Yeah.
So we got into Pakistan and then went through the Khyber Pass to get into Afghanistan, where, Osama bin Laden later was hiding.
Wow.
In the Khyber
and so
Pass.
You knew the region a little
very well. And so we got to Kabul and we stayed there for a while. And
what was Kabul like then?
Oh my God, it was just like a little stores built into the mountains. I mean, it was really, really primitive.
Mm-hmm.
Really primitive.
Was it beautiful?
Yeah, it was. And very, very calm. It was before the Russians got there. I mean, people were sweet. We had to get a visa to Iran, and they wouldn't give it to us unless we went on a picnic with them. And so we said, "Oh,
these are the way that you used to bribe the immigration officers."
So, no. What we did is we went to the American consul. They had a small consul there.
Yeah. Of
Marines, and they said, "Don't worry, we'll get it for you." So they got us the visas.
That's hysterical.
So we had a really interesting time in Kabul, and we loved it.
That's incredible. So how long was the trip in total?
2 years.
2 years. You guys covered a lot of ground. You did a lot of things in 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the way we got out of Afghanistan is we hitched a ride with an Iranian oil tanker. And he took us.
Somebody, please tell me someone that's listening to this is just laughing along with me, because I've heard wild stories, but this takes the cake a little.
Well, this is Wild West, in that part of the world. But he could only take us to the border, which is Meshed, and he couldn't let us go any further with him or he would be arrested for carrying us.
Mm-hmm.
So when we got to Meshed, the border people there were Iranians, but they had to hide us because they were having a holy war. And the mullahs were coming down from the mountains. And they hid us for 3 days until we got on a train for Tehran. And once we got to Tehran, we were safe because the Shah was still alive, and it wasn't, the mullahs and the holy men were not in Tehran.
Yeah. Okay.
And we loved Tehran. We had a great time. We did all this stuff we were supposed to, looking at all the jewels and the palaces. And then we got on a bus to Baghdad, and then from Baghdad to Damascus, and then from Damascus to Beirut.
Mm-hmm.
And Beirut was gorgeous. It was like the Paris of the East.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's not.
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time there.
Yeah, you did.
I did, but because you can see you can see the remnants, but listening to you, it's just so interesting. I mean, how, of course, outstanding of a trip. And also you got to see so many of these places before they were bombed over and over and
We're so lucky.
destroyed. Like you got to see such rich, intense history.
I know. I wish I'd kept a legend or a diary. But,
Hmm.
we were 22 and we weren't afraid because you're so silly at 22. You don't know what you should be afraid of. And we weren't afraid. We just did everything we could. And we were lucky.
Well, and I think you just said it so well, is that when you're not afraid, a lot of times you'll go and do these things that people would tell you never to do. Absolutely not. And you went and had the time of your life. You're safe. You've lived a beautiful, thriving life. And now you're sitting here 60 years later. Is that true?
No, I'm 85. So, oh yeah, I guess.
More than 60 years later,
Yeah.
telling me this story.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that this is going to sound like a silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyways, like that trip had a profound impact on who you are? And
Absolutely. Absolutely. Exposure is the key to understanding people and being inclusive and compassionate, just exposure.
mm-hmm.
My father, we grew up in South Texas, and he was very prejudiced against Mexicans until he knew some. And then it changed.
Yeah, that makes me want to tear up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, something, I was having an interesting conversation with someone yesterday who has a different point of view politically on things. And what I noticed was the before any word, the Latinos, the progressives, the Republicans, and I'm like, I think that's part of our problem. That is part of the othering, is that you just group all these people together
With the label.
with a label. However, if you meet Jose or you meet Juma, you have a whole different perspective.
Don't you think all people want the pursuit of happiness, which is in our Constitution? They want a better life for their children.
Yeah,
Most of us want the same things.
absolutely. Absolutely. The first time I ever really traveled was between my sophomore and junior year of high school, and I talked my dad into letting me go to a family stay in Costa Rica. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, so no one was going to Costa Rica. And I had a Costa Rican friend. Long story short, what I really realized is, like, we're all human and we all have really similar interests. And also, we all have the same basic necessities.
Mm-hmm.
So it just opened my eyes to, why are we scared of each other?
In traveling so much, I came to realize how wonderful our country was because of its diversity. When I traveled in the Middle East, in Iraq, there were only Iraqis living there, no other groups, um, maybe some tribal people, but most of those countries are insulated from diversity, and that's what's made our country so incredible.
Mm-hmm. I want to wrap on a positive note with all of your experience and just who you are and how you've lived your life and the things you've seen. Like, what's some words of wisdom you can share with us, or a motto or a mantra that you live your life by?
Be grateful. You know, it's a gift. Life on this planet is a gift.
Absolutely. 100%.
And don't take it for granted.
Yeah, you taught me that. One of the most favorite things I will never forget is I was upset about something, and I was telling Gretchen, I was 21, 22 at the time, and she was like, "Oh, your life hasn't even began yet. Just be grateful." And I was like, "Oh my God, she's so right." She's so right. It was like this big thing, this drama I was making became this itty bitty little thing. And I was like, oh, fine.
You know, the trick I've learned is we're all going to have bad things happen to us. It's just, we have to.
It's life.
It is. But if you've got things that are worrying you, just write it down on a piece of paper. Like if it's 5 things worrying you, I guarantee you in about 2 weeks, those things will not be worrying you anymore. They'll be resolved, most of them.
So you just write them down? That's it?
I write them down.
Don't burn them, or
no,
you just...
I look at them later, and they're usually resolved.
That's amazing. Well, I have a feeling this will not be the first time you're on the podcast. So you have plenty of notice for the next one, just because this isn't even scratching the surface of your large Rolodex of stories. And I just am very, very grateful for you sharing today and being here and being in my life and just being such a light for so many people.
And I'm so proud of you for what you're doing. And you spread life and happiness wherever you go too.
Oh, thank you.
It's true.
Thank you. I hope so. I mean, at least I'm always down for a good laugh.
You've had some wonderful experiences too.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Meander and Muse, where travel is the entry point and then we meander our way around a conversation. Join us for our next episode, where we go on an adventure through the rainforests of Borneo with Max McCormick. Until then, have magical times. Ciao.